You're listening to ArTEEtude, a podcast with artists created and produced by Detlef Schlich, a visual artist and ritual designer, living and loving in West Cork, and best known for his essay about the cause and effect of shamanism, art and digital culture. Working in the field of performance, photography, painting, sound, installations, and film, he will dive and discover with us and a weekly creative guest into the unknown and exciting deep ocean of the creative mind.
This is Detlef Schlich, and today we dive into the deep, exciting and unexpected ocean of the creative mind together with Jamie Ashforth. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Detlef.
Yes, it's already the third part, and it was quite interesting to listen. The first part where Jamie started studying things, and the second part, the problems in the lockdown over here in Europe, as well as an artist, which was quite very interesting, I think, as well. And we're sitting here in Jamie's studio. She's in a residence here in Ballythehop for 6 weeks, was it? No?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And she's working over here. So everyone is invited to come from 11 to 4.
So it's Monday to Friday, 11 to 4 are the studio hours. Although I feel like I've learned something in Ireland. You should add an ish onto every timeline, like 11 to 4-ish, because there's flexibility.
That's true. Yeah.
The bus comes at 1-ish.
Yeah.
As an example, which I would say is quite a difference to Germany and to Switzerland. In terms of the transit system. Let's say.
And never ask in Irish when the bus is coming, because I mean they will give you a time, but they're just giving you a time because they feel embarrassed if that they don't know when the bus is there.
I actually had an experience. I did ask about the bus, and then I thought, that's not the time I thought. So I asked somebody else, and they gave me a totally different time. And I was like, this is now confusing. So I asked a third person, totally different time. So I thought, okay, it's basically just roll with it. Be at the bus stop generally when the bus kind of should be there.
Yeah, I mean that's actually I like it somehow. It is. Jamie, she's coming from Toronto. I'm coming from Cologne, which is as well a million population city and quite a big rat race. And life here is completely different. I mean, time is really standing still here. And
well, and I was saying to somebody else that, like, in a way, the transit system precision in terms of time reflects a kind of attitude in general. And I actually think, if the bus is not arriving on time, it means it's okay if you're not arriving on time is also something that doesn't need to be a thing.
This is
yeah.
So I agree that there's a ease that exists here, and everything slowing down to a different kind of pace.
But that's culture,
Yeah.
I mean that's the culture of peninsulas, and
right.
and that is what I've learned is that I mean time catches up here as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean they had in Golin, for instance, electric in the 60s, 70s, and they used to be forced to get electric because they didn't want it,
Wow.
They didn't want it, but now what I see now is that everyone's getting so used to the luxury and internet as well and modernity that they really catch up here very, very quickly, So all the city diseases, they're already
coming.
They are already here, yeah.
But I will say that, so it's unexpected experience to not have a consistent cell reception or internet reception. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not. But it's so uncommon at
Yeah.
this point
Yeah.
that the reception here is inconsistent, which forces this, a disconnect in one way
Yeah.
from online fast-pacedness
Yeah.
and accessibility, but it also supports a connectedness with yourself, because then when
Absolutely.
you
I mean,
can't get
yeah,
text messages and you can't have internet access, then it's all about, there's a kind of quiet that comes over. I mean, there's still music to listen to and radios to
Yeah,
listen
sure.
to, but I've found it's been a transition to embrace it, because
Yeah.
even normally, when I'm making work, I have podcasts on or
Yeah.
music on or the news on, and all of that's internet based. But I've really enjoyed sort of it feels like time travel in a way. Like things
Yeah.
are slower and I'm working more physically,
No,
like with my
yeah.
work too, with pencil and pen and
Okay.
paper.
Okay.
and-
All right. Yeah. I must say, I mean, I'm here in Ireland already 18 years, and it works. This slowing down, everything works well for me. But I'm still though using a lot of technology due to my research as in transhumanism and all that. But as I came over, or say, as I did my level 5, for instance, in art, craft, and design in Skibbereen, we had communication. That was one module, and in communication, we learned, believe it or not, how to use a cell phone and how to use a fax machine.
Okay.
Because a lot of people from this peninsulas far out, they don't know how to use that,
Yeah.
So, and I mean, they don't have it there. So, and
Yeah.
if children, I mean, all the children, 16, 17, 18 years old,
Yeah.
start to do something, a new course, they had to learn it.
Yeah.
And it was really part of
Wow.
communication.
Like tech literacy.
Yeah, that are things we not consider anymore. If we are over here, so things, society over here, they're really probably, overwhelmed maybe with all this technology somehow. I think that maybe some don't care and some they just use it. I mean, for instance, we have now fiberglass or glass fiber? Fiberglass, no?
Fiberglass, yeah.
I have it now since a month,
Okay.
because I used before just my smartphone,
Okay.
and the smartphone was my hotspot.
Oh.
I had it in a window, and I'm living in a hollow
Yeah.
place.
Okay.
So it was for me okay. I could deal with it, work, and I could keep connection. I was connected with the outside world.
Okay.
But what I realize now, especially now when I get more into this direction, e-commerce, and try to set up my Instagram accounts, try to deal with to cope with the technology, the economy of technology of nowadays. So you need really a quick access. If you don't have it, I wouldn't say you're fucked. I mean, but a lot of artists here, they still do pottery stuff. For me, for instance, for me as an avant-garde artist, it's very difficult here with my work, because I mean, probably in California, people would embrace my work, but here,
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now back to the show.
I have to find different ways, to how can I survive as an artist in the 21st century? You too.
In a place that there's less technology or less accessibility in a way.
Yeah, and that's actually where we already in the middle of the third part, where we want to talk about how can we artists use technology, and how does it change as artists, where we're gonna philosophizing a little bit about that, because I think art in general probably doesn't change. Like I see here, that's really, it's nice to see this physically work, this printmaking and all that this still exists, and I actually really like it, but currently I have for myself my difficulties to work physical, because I am since the beginning of the lockdown, I start to research in new ways how I can get access and how I can distribute my art and things like this is sure for the good and for the evil. I mean, but first of all, I try to explore the good side, and I saw a little bit on your work, and you're working as well already with that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think prior to COVID, I did a residency at Cowhouse Studios in Wexford, County Wexford, and I ended up working similarly as I am now. So paper, basically I created a series of paintings that was from material from the land, but I scanned everything digitally to document it, and realized in that process that the work changes when you're seeing it on a screen. And there's something quite beautiful about the luminosity of a digital screen. Plus, as somebody who's on the move and traveling, it's easier not to be carrying around paper, right? So it actually called into question for me, because my work typically is quite hands-on, is quite physical. And I started to think about, okay, well,
I mean, we're still humans. It's good for the soul.
Yeah. But how to share that work in a way, like maybe I wanted to choose a digital presentation because of the ability to adapt scale, for instance. So can I project my digital images, or can I layer? I've also been working a little bit with video, and how do I basically project video into a space, and how do I create environment out of a digital image? So shifts in scale, and then shifts also in experiencing the work. That like I said, to see, I had some great feedback from the other artists who were at the residency at the time with me.
Over here?
At Cowhouse, so near Enniscorthy.
Okay.
And they were saying, like the work feels different on the screen, and there's something to play with there. So I started to think about intentionally incorporating digital presentation or digital exhibition. I didn't get that far because then lockdown happened. And now, as we know, like galleries aren't as accessible or are closed, and even really. Installations, how to share work is being digitized, right? So we know that lots of exhibits have now gone kind of online. There are virtual tours. So we know that experiencing work digitally is not the same as experiencing it in person. So how to make work with that in mind, it changes the process and the work, right? And I don't have any answers. I just have mostly questions. And I think it's not something to necessarily to resist. It's something to critique, but I think that as sort of restriction continues, embracing the digital platform as a way of sharing work is important, because that's how we share. Like, for instance, Instagram is not how I would typically choose to share the work I'm making, but there's something so...
What's your Instagram account again?
It's Jamie_Ashforth.
Jamie_Ashforth. But I'm gonna put all this information on a later stage into my description in the podcast as well. So if you give me all the links, they will turn up there.
That's great.
As well on the visual podcast on YouTube. So if you are interested in Jamie's work, you can look her up over there, but you can probably look her up as well on Facebook, no?
Yeah. So I guess...
You don't like it?
No, I paused not because I don't like Facebook, but that I'm reevaluating my relationship with social media, because I felt kind of resistance for a long time.
I know.
But it's actually a way that, especially being away from Canada, that friends and family and colleagues are able to access work that aren't physically where I am, and that I'm on the move means that I'm often moving where I am.
Sure.
So I've found that so I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram, and that those have been really important channels to be able to share, or platforms to share work and get feedback, and for people to feel like they're a part of my trip and my process, which I think is valuable. So, like I said, reevaluating, because I think there's something very important to also critique about what kind of privacy we kind of sacrifice.
I know.
via-
I mean, look, that's exactly the thing. I mean, me as German, we were fighting in the 80s a lot against surveillance and a lot against the surveys, surveillance surveys, you know, so where people, you really wanted to come knocking at the door, how many children, the left wing really made it that they never got through to it, you know?
Yeah.
And nowadays, I mean, people they embracing the spy in their own home with Alexa, for instance, you know.
Well, I think we just hemorrhage our personal information. We just give it up.
And that's the thing. What I've learned, I mean, unfortunately, I have to say that because I don't want to get too depressed and too bitter to that. But what I've learned, for instance, in the 90s, I was against computers. I started lately to learn to deal with computers, but I realized that all the hippies in America, in California, they started with it, you know. So on one side, they adored Bob Dylan and Neil Young and all that. So and then they became completely politically incorrect, you know, not PC anymore as well. And I thought, Detlef, if you not dealing now with computers, you become really in the new century a computer dyslexic. You know? So I really embraced it as well. Then around 2008. I was web designer, and I said, Detlef, no, you're not a businessman. You're an artist. So I stepped back again from all that, and social media. Okay, I did it, but I never ever was interested in it to use it for promoting my art.
Right.
You know, because I hated this superficiality.
Yeah.
You know,
But yeah.
And nowadays I realize, and that's the reason why I started my Instagram account in February, and due to COVID, sure, as well, you know, and due to that I started with the podcast. And what I realized regarding our loss of privacy is now I'm there where I was in the 90s. And I say goodbye privacy. I'm gonna deal with it because people are not interested to have a free will. They are just interested to have a free will to consume, and that's the end. You know, I mean, at least most of them. I mean, and before I'm really getting scared about that, I try to catch up with it and say, okay, if this is the case, and if we really are all now like an open book, because as soon as you are online, you are an open book, because people can, I mean, you have as well a website, and everyone can know what you did. Everyone can know what I do, and I don't mind, because I want that people know what I do. I think we as an artist, we try to keep the discourse going somehow. And in order to do that, we have to be seen, you know?
Well, and I think, I mean, I believe art stems always from the personal. So there is something extremely personal about putting your art online. Like it is a personal, but I also think that how we engage with social media and online, your online identity, how you craft and curate an online identity needs to be done really consciously. And I think it's important to also retain privacy by not posting everything, telling the whole story.
You have to be very sensitive. You know, that's true. I mean,
so I mean, as I think in a way, the questions that come up for me is that I engage with social media as a way to share the work that I'm making, and the work is of course personal, but I feel the work abstracts my personal experience to a point where I feel like it's not so clearly, literally autobiographical that someone knows exactly where I am and what I'm doing and who I'm doing.
And I mean, don't forget, even if we call us visual artists, we are as well storytellers. You know?
For sure. But I hope in some ways that I've retained enough of the privacy that I want to retain by having it be a slightly abstracted story, that people are going to take what they take and read what they read into the work.
Absolutely.
Without telling, I don't really want everyone to know.
No, me neither, no.
Even posting where the photos are being taken was a step that I consciously made, thinking, okay, now I'm going to say, I'm in Ballydehab, and yes, I'm in Skibbereen, or yes, I was in,
it is, but it shows already how far we're gonna go as a human species, that we say, okay, so I don't mind. I mean, everyone knows it already. Why shouldn't I post it?
Right. But and then there's also the conversation about, you post it and you lose authorship on those images, that they're owned by the platform.
Yeah, okay, but I see that a little bit different. It's the same like with songwriting. I mean, if you want to steal something, then you steal it, and it is people getting inspired nowadays from this and that, and especially in times like now, where a lot of artists already work with print on demand, for instance, which is as well a new technology. Where you are on Etsy.
Yeah, so I have I sort of not so much connected to my art practice, but I also am an entrepreneur, and I have an online business called Ashforth Press, and I sell basically digital versions of paintings I've made in the form of greeting cards and prints. So yes, there's a shop, and people go and they buy things there,
and all that is nowadays possible and accessible, accessible.
Well, and I think that when I mention authorship, it's again like, it's not necessarily a bad thing to post something and to release it into the world, and to not be necessarily fully in control of it, because it spurs on the creative process. Just keep making.
I think the difficulty is just to find your own style as a digital artist. Or I call myself sometimes as a digital shaman. How I can create this special spirit still online. How I mean, it's like in Korea, South Korea. They that is one of the advanced techno society, and they use already shamanism in the culture.
Right.
And that's what I still try to learn for myself. That. Like you do already with your entrepreneur thing, it's great. So I'm still on the way that I'm thinking about my appearance, how I gonna can make it somehow coherent, with my accounts, Instagram accounts, and this and that, So it's a lot of work.
Well, it's the branding in a way, it's creating
it is actually
brand.
ArTEEtude, is my branding.
Yeah.
And it is an attitude, so it is never so close again. And it is actually a creation which came actually in terms of this COVID thing, So it's a digital diary somehow.
Well, and I think, to loop back to what I said before, that like when you know that your work is being shared digitally, you might craft that work differently, because that's the platform people are accessing.
What we still learn now, and
and it's not. I think previously the digital was a way to document something that was going to be experienced. And non-virtually, like in person,
just using
I mean, of course there's many other ways people have always engaged with the digital technology, but now I think what's new for me is considering intentionally integrating digital in the work, as
not just as a concept, as well as a process, which this process can change your work as well again. So
for sure.
And that's what I've learned that the last couple of years. So I'm quite familiar for me with that, and I really, I call myself as well somehow a techno philosopher, because when I'm questioning myself sometimes if I work with my digital stuff, and I say, what happens now, and what I realize is, for instance, if you use applications like Photoshop or nowadays you get tons of them online and for free, and there is I ask myself, okay, is there saturation or not? Yes, there is a saturation, but so what can you do in order that you yourself feel not saturated? Because sometimes, so I'm not interested really in manipulating an image because I'm getting bored as well with that. You know?
Well, I mean, this raises another question. I think what I found challenging always with digital work is because even as I studied at Concordia in print and integrating scanning and digital elements, that there's infinite possibilities. And I think something helpful in creative processes are limitations, right? And when you're working with more analog, like with pencil, paper, printmaking in the sort of flesh, there are greater limitations. And so I think working with digital in mind, you have to impose limitations there that might not actually be there, so that it contains the process. That's kind of what I've sort of been thinking more about.
Yeah.
How do I create for myself? How do I boundary the experience so that it's not just this like flowing out thing that has no limits?
Yeah, and you have a chance to alter work with this new sort of technology, you know. So, but otherwise, it is as well, if you embrace technology, it's as well already a step towards this direction that you say, okay, I agree with I merge already with the machines somehow, you know. We as humans, which I see already, because when I work with Photoshop, for instance, or other digital photo manipulation software, is what I realize is that it was always like this, that technology revealed things in physics which are for normal humans not really available for our sense, you know. And if you work for instance in Photoshop, you can play around with saturation and this and that and brightness and contrast and all that, you know, and all of a sudden you see things what you didn't see before with your normal lens, you know.
Yes.
So, no?
Yes.
So what I realize is that all these tools made by designers, engineers, and revealing as well again nature and things what we normally don't see, and we still can use it for the good and not just for the evil.
Yeah,
you know? So,
that's a really interesting point. Like to use digital tools that shift that expand basically our sensorial experience.
I mean, take quantum physics, and that's just the same thing, you know. So quantum physics is actually the physics which what we can't realize anymore with normal microscopes and all that. So all of a sudden, culture changed as well, you know. So I mean, but that is already, we could talk about for ages about that. We already know.
I did want to say that ultimately, though, that with this sort of infinite possibility of digital editing, that it all still comes back to the common denominator of feeling, for me at least. That like I'm creating an image.
Best case
is it has a feeling. It resonates in some way with something I'm trying to say, so that's the limit. It needs to still feel a certain way before I share it. That's
the best case scenario. You know,
and I think that for me is a guidepost, no matter what kind of work I'm making. And I make lots of different kinds of work. So what's the feeling of the image? How does it sit in myself, you know, and then to share it from there.
But we humans, we get as well more and more used to the technology like this as well. That means that's our aesthetic view will change as well, you know, after a while. So, you know, so it is still interesting. I mean, I'm not trying to condemn technology. I work a lot with that, and I'm getting so inspired with your work over here. So I really should do more physically work, but I say that every day to myself, you know. So doing more prints and this and that, you know, more printings in the river, and.
But I mean, I think it's so. The reason you're seeing all this work on the wall is that I have a residency, right? And so to create work like this, it needs a frame, and the frame in this instance is having a room in a building with other artists that is all about go time. Make something right now.
Right,
and without those limits, again, it's easy to not make the work.
Sure.
And And I think it's really, it's a really amazing opportunity to have a finite amount of time.
Yeah, no, I consider that as well. I mean, I told Jamie already. So if I'm gonna do a show, so I booked me in here as well for a week or two because it really helps. It's quite cool. Staying, not using too much just digital technology, because I still like it to mix as well. Ritual. I mean, I call myself as well a ritual designer, and I'm probably gonna do at the 21st of December another world-saving art thing.
Okay.
What I did in 2012, and hopefully this time together with Dory in Toronto.
Okay.
So I gonna put him into trance, and he will be wired, and so we're gonna see what happens.
Okay, that sounds very interesting.
That's yeah. So
made possible through digital technology, right?
Yeah,
Because he's
absolutely.
in Toronto
So
and you're in
if you're in Toronto, maybe you join him.
Maybe
When you're gonna go back?
I don't know yet.
You don't know yet.
No.
All right, so that's great.
Wait and see. I'm not sure.
Jamie, is there anything what you would like to add?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, so is there anything? Your website is Jamie.
So it's jamieashforth.com.
Yeah, your Instagram account
is Jamie_Ashforth.
And Facebook
is just Jamie Ashforth.
Do you have Twitter?
I don't.
No.
I don't.
So you're not staying in contact with Donald Trump. That's you're disappointing.
Such a shame.
Me.
Yeah, sorry. I'm okay to disappoint you in this area. But yeah, no. Like I just haven't made that leap yet. So.
All right. Jamie, thank you very much. It was a lovely chat with you. A lovely talk. I don't call it interview. I call it talk.
Yeah. No, It was great to speak with you as well, and I'm so glad we had the conversation.
And maybe we're gonna have next year another one from Toronto.
That would be great.
Via Skype or something like
Yeah.
that. And then you tell me more about your experience in Germany or in Europe. Okay.
Yes, sounds great.
Cool. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. And if you like what you hear, just tune in next time to another podcast, ArTEEtude Podcasts, and dive with us together into the unexpected and exciting deep ocean of creative minds. Bye-bye. Ciao. This is a listener-supported show. I feel honored if you subscribe this show. You can follow me non-financial with the following click on one of my Instagram accounts, or subscribe the visual version of this podcast on YouTube via the link below. If you like what you hear, be sure to tune in this Sunday for the third part of this ArTEEtude audio triptych. If you want to leave a donation for a coffee or a bus ticket, just follow the donation link via the ArTEEtude podcast account. Eventually, I would like to thank, through this medium, all my members and listeners of the I Love West Cork Artists Network from all over the world. Just to remember myself that without you, this year couldn't and wouldn't happen.
You have listened to ArTEEtude, West Cork's first art, fashion and design podcast. ArTEEtude, never so close again. That was too close.